All right, we're here. This video is being filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right, so here we go. I am making a QuickTime video right now, maybe about the basic introduction to mixing for you guys. We'll try to keep this somewhere between 20 minutes, no more than a half hour. So let's take a look at our session and let's get started. We're mixing this Gem in the Vibe, or something as it is called. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my edit window, and I'm going to look at my session and pick where there's an active song. For now, it doesn't matter. I can pick the first song, but I can tell here is a song, and then there's the gap where the banter happens and the next song starts. About a minute into the show. Maybe 2 minutes. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, for me, is pull everything down. And then I'm going to make a master fader. Nobody said this was going to be slow. I'm going to make a master fader, and I'm actually going to drag it over by my kick drum because I'll be working with my drums. So the first thing I want to do is get a decent level on my kick drum. And so I can build my mix around this. It's looking like the level is pretty low, so I'm going to add an EQ plugin and just give 6 decibels on the output. Okay, I gave 10. It gets me to a decent level of where I want to be. Cool. Now what I'm just going to start to add in is my toms, my cymbals, my overhead mics. We'll see how this sounds through now. Some of this stuff was recorded pretty low, so the gains may have to come up in Pro Tools. For right now, if I wanted to, I could take this EQ plugin and copy it. Now I just added another 10 decibels on the overheads. I'm going to add my bass guitar. Okay, I'm going to add that EQ plugin again. I don't see anything on that guitar. I'm going to listen. Guitar here. I just pan the guitar a little bit. Ooh, a percussion player? Right now I'm getting a basic mix. I'm looking at some tracks here. Let's stop the tape. From tracks 12 to 15, are they even being used? No. What can I do with these tracks? I'm going to hide them and make them inactive. I won't want to delete them, which is what somebody said. But what I'm going to do is take any track that doesn't have sound on it and hide them and make them inactive. You just never know what's going to be there. So with media and technology and storage, it's better to have it. I'm going to choose not to use the main left and right mix from the console. Also, 21 and 22 are a reverb that phase out the sound, so I'm going to get rid of those. I see nothing on this guitar 1 here. I'm going to just increase the magnification, see if there is anything there. There's nothing, so I'll hide and make that inactive as well. Now I'm looking at our DIs. Here's a talkback, apparently, and our 3 vocals. I think one of the vocals, I believe this left vocal is a saxophone. It's the right vocal. It does look like that if we look down here. We can see this may be the saxophone parts here. So let's cue that in. Something I do in this edit window sometimes is click this tab right here, and it pops up that fader. That is the exact same fader that is in the mix window. So for the right vocal there, I don't have to access the mix window to bring that level up. Alright, let's not get off topic yet. So now it looks like we have everything. I'm going to take all my drums and color them up. I don't know how far we are into this lesson currently, but we can't be too far. Bass, we'll give a different color, and we'll go with yellow today. Let's take our 3 vocal mics, and let's color them differently as well. Actually, I like pink usually for vocals. Let's take a listen to this talkback mic and see what's on this track. Pop that mini fader up, option click. Okay, it sounds like we don't need the talkback mic as well, so I'll highlight that one and make that inactive as well. Now, every recording artist likes to put a bus compressor of some sort, a main compressor on their master bus. For me, I'm going to use this multi-band compressor. I'm actually going to add it while the music's playing. You can hear the highs come out a little more. There's a little more excitement. This compressor here controls compression in 5 frequency bands. So I can control to just compress certain areas. I also tend to use something to help put my mix together is this Sony Oxford limiter, which is probably not around in a lot of these rooms. But I'll give you an example of how this helps my mix. You can see with this plugin, it works very similar to like Maxim, other mastering plugins. The input gain brings it up here, there's a compressor, and then there's this enhance. Don't ask me what enhance does, it enhances it. If you actually want to know what it does, I would say read the manual. Off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what it enhances. But what I particularly like about this plugin is I can take this output level and go down to .0001. I know I'm at 002, but this can go tens, hundreds, thousands, what is this, millions or something? This is incredibly close to 0. It gets a lot closer than Maxim. The closest Maxim can get is like 0.1. So this controls your output level a little bit better. So I'm just going to go down to about 0.1. Without those plugins, with the plugins. Am I going to print this final mix with the Oxford limiter? No. But when I go into the mastering phase or something, it's going to tell me where the mix is going to go. So that's why I use it sometimes. Okay, what we're going to do next, now that we have everything colored, is does anybody have a recommendation of where we might go next with this mix? Kind of put all of our tracks together and relabel them. What might be the next step? I might go through and add a couple things. I may group my 2 overheads together. So if I want to solo that, well, solo normally should be set up, but if I want to move them or mute them, they'll work together. And then I'm going to start assigning Hogs tracks to reroute and do like some subgrouping. So here's my overheads. My overheads are going to come through bus 1 and 2. I hold shift and option and it changes both those channels at the same time. So here's my overhead mics. Why did I add that to the overheads? Because if I want to EQ them, I can just do one EQ on both of those for both the stereo EQ, for both sides of the stereo overheads. Moving on, if we have all of our vocals right here, I may take all of my vocals and make a stereo aux input, title it VOX for all my vocals, and then route all of my vocals into there as well. Later on down the road, this stuff is just going to help me control all my vocals or compress certain areas of the entire band. I'm going to take all of these instruments as well and make a stereo group. INST, instruments. That way, if I want to control all of the instruments, I can. So now that we have that set up, I'm also going to set up one for my drums. So now we're going to set up our drum input as well on 7 and 8. Did anybody do any routing like this the other day to their tracks? Show of hands. I think this stuff just helps. The entire drum kit is gone. Everything's gone there except for the saxophone. The saxophone is there vocals on that one as well? Okay. So this is actually just sax mic now. Alright, let's move it over with the instruments. Then we have our vocals over here. The only thing left by itself, the bass. So now we have a little more control over the entire mix by doing different groups of things. I think that can help us out a lot. Once we get past making groups of tracks, grouping our tracks together, and making aux tracks and reorganizing our tracks, the next thing I might do is just mute out all the vocals and work with the band a little bit. I might try to run through my drums and make my drums sound a little bit better. What would I do to the drums to make them sound a little bit better? Exactly. I would maybe start with my overheads. I'm going to take the low end out of my overheads. That's a great answer. I tend to use a low shelf. Some people just do a low cut. So if we listen to our drum kit with and without this EQ, you can hear a little more of the separation come through. The kick drum, I'm going to add EQ to it right now to kind of make it sound a little bit better. I'll leave this up. If you listen to the kick, this EQ plugin helps you. Let's take this bottom one and make it a low shelf. On this snare drum, a lot of like lead from the bass, the kick drum, bass and stuff. I tend to add somewhere around 180, 200 hertz. It gives some extra pop. Sometimes one of the popular tricks on snare drum is to pull a little 580 hertz out. when we pull out, we usually want to be a little narrow. Let's listen to this with the mix. Usually, God, there's a lot of bleed on this track. I don't know if that helps. And sounds a little bit better. I hit down and right because that brought me over to the tom area where you hit those toms. I see these toms. Let's look at these toms and just work in this area. They're not terrible, actually, the way they just mix in. Let's see if we can... What's a good thing to put on drums to tighten up the sound of them a little bit? A gate, did somebody say? Well, the gate would be good. There is a key filter right here on the tom. This helps the tom hear what it's going to actually open to. Yeah? Old, 80 milliseconds. Percentage like 120. See if that's not too bad. Let's put that on the floor tom and just see what happens with the floor. Bad mic placement on the tom. I don't know if this one's going to trigger that well. Oops. Jack, do you use gates a lot? That noise may not even... What's the high tom missing? I would say a little bit of attack. Try to add a little bit of attack to it and see what happens. Well, if we want to on this high tom, we could try to pull a little mid-range out of it, around 600, 600 hertz. Add a little attack around 200. Without. With. There's a little more attack. We can do the same thing to the floor tom. Try to add something to the floor tom to give it a little more meat and potatoes. A little more bottom end. This is not going to work out very well, though. I don't think we're going to get much out of this floor tom. I wouldn't go much further than that. I think that sounds okay. All the drums are being sent here right now, so I might just take this track and duplicate it. This drum bus, where all the drums are going, I just duplicated it, and I'm going to add like a pumpy compressor. Maybe we'll try like the SSL compressor and see what happens when we add like a heavy compressed sound to the drums. With compression, without. It's got a little more attitude. Alright, let's add the bass guitar in. Can't do too much more of that. Is this going okay for you guys so far? You said you guys liked the last song in particular? What song is this? Play it funky? Add the bass guitar. Okay, something I like to add, which you guys don't have, but is this analog channel plugin right here. And with this analog channel, it's got a couple like presets in here, like tape, underbias. It gives like an exciting sound to the bass, let's say. Okay. This helps to do a little bit of compression. Just something I like to put on for the sound of my bass. I'm gonna... What compressor am I gonna add? You know what compressor I have been liking? Is the FabFilter compressor. His bass is quite dirty. So it's killing me. It's this the whole time. Let's play with the bass in the song. Here, all the notes are gone. If you pull that mid-range out of a bass, you really get no intelligibility from the different notes on the bass guitar. Guitar, we have a guitar right here. What am I going to do on the guitar? Even the most inexperienced engineers know what we should first do on a guitar when we're doing a mix, when we're putting a mix together. What's something EQ-wise that we could add on a guitar? Great job. A low cut. Might want to add a low cut on here. Hear all that low end? How high can we get this to where we really don't notice what it sounds like in the mix? Okay, now it doesn't sound like a guitar. We are at 235 hertz on the guitar right now. I'm making it extreme a little bit. What did we make room for when we did that? Kick drum and the bass guitar. So let's play that in the mix. Huh? Yeah, you can hear some things come back. So. Do we have to high pass this? Can we try to high pass it and see what happens? Whoa, Nelly. Does it clutter up the kick and the bass? Okay, great observation. You don't miss any of that, do you? Let's just, well, you don't miss it. It leaves space for other instruments. I hear a saxophone. What am I going to do to the saxophone? What's going to disappear from the background of this microphone? Did you notice how much bass is there? All that bass. Okay. Yes, we know your Star Wars tribute band. Whatever he says. What should we do to the percussion? Anybody want to field that question? What should we do to the percussion? Yes, I would do the same thing. I would take out the low end that's not needed. Thank you guys. Riveting answers. We can do things like this. Did we lose all the... Is there any bongos there? Maybe around 200 hertz we start to hear them. 255. I'm dying. I'm not going to do too much EQ yet. What would really sound good on this to bring out some of the slap of the percussion? Compressor. You can hear the fast attack, the fast compression offers extra slap attack. So just that little bit of slap will help it pronounce. The bongos made it what? How about the lead vocal? Once we get to the lead vocal, what might we do with that first thing with EQ? Yeah, I would add a low cut to that again. High pass it.
Ben, we were called R2DC. We used to be an AC/DC and Star Wars tribute band. We were called R2DC.
That's right.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would be my toy?
Whoa. Yes or no? Like, are you kidding me?
Even though you sometimes wanna get a thing.
When I first played it, you were like, oh, the voice sounds good. Then I bypassed that and you go, there's too much bass.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would be my toy?
Right there, that sounds good. You add all the bass stuff in.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would be my toy?
Then you play it again and you go,
And my only worry.
did I just make it too thin? I don't know. It's hard to say. There's a live sound PA system and everything behind it. So let's listen to it with the mix.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would
Sounds great.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would be my toy?
band gets separated, and then you hear when you add that low end back, literally the entire band, all the percussion instruments and everything, get cluttered again.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would be my turn? Even though we sometimes were making a thing, we were happy with the joy that we bring. Sneaking out the back door to hang out with.
That's everything. What's the woofer doing of the speaker? Did anybody hear the woofer of the speaker just go woof, woof, like 3 or 4 times? It's like a misfire on your car engine. Shouldn't do that. So same thing, you're misfiring the speaker by not utilizing that properly. We just took all of that out of the mix.
And my only worry was for Christmas, what would be my turn?
Did anybody sing on this left vocal at all? Oh yeah.
Well, my temperature's rising, got my
Perfect.
well, my temperature's rising, got my feet on the floor. Crazy people rocking 'cause they want.
We can get to that later. That's fine. That's fine. So I'm looking pretty good on my mix right now.
My temperature's
Okay. Put my mix together.
Sneaking out the back door to hang out with.
Let's bring these levels really quiet. I think it sounds good so far. What will we add next that could sound good and make the song better? Give it some definition and depth. Let's start with some reverbs. Let's do one over here for the drums. So I'll put a stereo reverb on the snare, S&R verb, snare verb. We're going to use our next available bus input. Usually I'm going to start somewhere around 25. I'm going to make a send for my snare drum at 25. I'm going to add a reverb to that, and I'll add a deverb, reverb. I try to only use stock for you guys. Okay, that doesn't help. Yes. Just that tiny little snare, that little ambient reverb. Raise your hand if you have used an ambient reverb on snare drum before. We typically go with rooms and longer stuff. Typically go with rooms and longer stuff? Okay. Short ones can be really nice too sometimes. Sometimes, I'm not even going to think about it too much, but I'm going to take this and add it to the 2 toms and maybe just turn them down a little bit. I'll put them like -10 on each channel. I'm not even going to overthink it. I'm just going to leave them there, and if I have a problem, then I'll go address it later. The vocals would be nice to have reverb on as well. Do you agree? So let's add a stereo reverb. V-verb means vocal verb. Our input will be 27 and 28. We'll use a D-verb. Again, what might be something that you do on a reverb to make it a little more manageable for vocals and less apparent? take the high frequencies out a little bit. Usually helps. So the S's aren't all over the place.
Sneaking out the back door to hang out with these hoodlum friends. Sneaking out the back door, although I thought I told you not to go outside.
That's our vocal. Let's mute that. Hear how dull it is right now? You stop the high frequencies at 3K. Just the reverb. See all the S's and consonants I got out of there? Now they will be accentuated by the actual vocal performance. This reverb will support the vocal, make it sound thicker, but it won't all over the S's, which is a common problem. I'm going to add a huge pre-delay here, which is the time it takes for the reverb to start, and I'm going to back it off. But watch the pseudo sort of delay that happens. Oh, I'm not listening to the original vocal. My apologies. Well, let's add it.
Sneaking out the back door to hang out with these hoodlum friends. Creeping out the back door, although I thought I told you not to go outside.
Put it right on it.
Sneaking out the back door to hang out with these hoodlum friends.
Let's move it back a little.
Creeping out the back door, although I thought I told you not to go outside.
Which one sounds a little more full? With the pre-delay, right? So let's add that.
Sneaking out the back door to hang out with these hoodlum friends.
Hear the difference in that? Just by shifting the pre-delay? What it means is they can finish their vocal passage and the reverb starts shortly after they deliver the message, not the reverb hits you with a ton of S's and a ton of bricks all at the same time.
Sneaking out the back door to hang out with these hoodlum friends. Creeping out the back door, although I thought I told you not to go outside. Trying your best to bring back water to the line. Making it not stop her, but when you're behind, I was so busy. Don't know what's more, what is the thing? Oh, you know I was so busy. Don't know what's more, what is the thing? But I keep those silent.
If you were to look at this right now, this multi-band compressor on the main mix, what's triggering this compressor? Kick is triggering the low end. Snare is grabbing in the mid-range here. So this is helping to compress or keep everything together. Sometimes, even with this thing, I like to get a little crazy and just and listen to the toms go or something like that. Make sure nothing jumps out. Or when the toms hit, that I feel the warmth equally. I could just hear the tom. But what I can do here is let off on the threshold of the compressor, the low end, so I can let the low end breathe a little more. Saxophone. Let's make the sax sound really amazing, and then we'll be done with this lesson. What makes saxophone sound really good? That's right. Reverb. And what else? Delay. I'm going to add the short reverb first and the long reverb second. Here's the long reverb, and I'm going to turn it down. The short reverb is 25 and 26. Let's try 2 different reverbs, and then let's make ourselves a mono delay. Mono delay on bus 29. I'm gonna make that like pretty short because that'll sound cool on a saxophone sometimes. So we have that option right here. Let's add the reverb. Okay, that should be. Where is a saxophone part? There's a short. Long. And the reverb. I've never done it. Let's put a short on the left and a long on the right. That actually sounds really cool, doesn't it? Let's play that again. Did anybody really find that to be fascinating? My ears enjoyed that. One more time. Without it with it. Kind of opened up quite a bit. Yeah, that was awesome. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Let's mute all 3 of those effects on the saxophone. Let's put it with the song. And get the vocals out of there, just in case. Bring it up a little bit so it's dominant in the mix. Sorry for the noise. Now, I don't know, I like my saxophone really wet. What does that mean? With a lot of what? A lot of effects, yeah. Embellished. I love it. Okay. Maybe it's a little too much. How's your last song sound? Good timing. Sound alright for you guys? Good start, was that helpful?